This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Lunchtime Show. Thanks for joining me. It's the 1st of September 2024. And today my special guest is English teacher Belén Albarracín from Argentina. And we will be talking about collaborative projects for learners.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Sunday Lunchtime Show, everyone. I'm Graham Stanley speaking to you live from Mexico City. As I mentioned earlier, on today's show, I'll be talking to Belén Albarracín from Argentina. Belén is a teacher of English at the Instituto Superior del Profesorado Joaquín V. González, an ICT facilitator at Bayard School, a sworn translator and an e-learning specialist. She is the webmistress of IATEFL's Learning Technologies SIG committee, and she is an advocate of the meaningful integration of technology to enhance language learning. She's been involved in a number of very interesting collaborative projects for her learners with other teachers, both in her home city of Buenos Aires and abroad. And I will be talking to Belén about this work and more after the Teachers Talk Radio news.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Get set for the year ahead with the Bloomsbury Education Back to School sale. Save 30% on all Bloomsbury education books until 30th September. From the very best in research-led practice to trusted advice on inclusivity, behaviour and curriculum design, we've got something for everyone. Visit bloomsbury.com/B2S sale to shop now and save 30%. Bloomsbury Education, books for every step of your teaching journey.
How can you show your students the opportunities that await them? How can you fuel their aspirations and motivate them to achieve? Futurum Careers provides a wealth of stimulating resources aimed at encouraging 14 to 19-year-olds to pursue careers in STEM and SHAPE. We help you to show your students what they can aim for and how. From articles to activity sheets, animations to podcasts, all our resources align with Gatsby benchmarks and are free for you and your students to download. Visit futurumcareers.com and subscribe today. Futurum Careers, helping teachers to inspire the next generation.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
BBC News reports on the uncertainty over the future of vocational courses, with over 450 schools and colleges in England saying they are unsure which courses they can offer in 2025. The government is conducting a review of post-16 education, and the Department for Education says this will support BTEC students. But the results of the review will not be out until December. This means schools and colleges are unsure which courses they can offer students in September 2025, despite having open days scheduled in the coming weeks. 450 schools have written to the government saying that the uncertainty is making it extremely difficult to plan for the future. Not only can they not tell prospective students which courses will be on offer, they can't tell staff either. More than 200 vocational qualifications, including BTECs and other post-16 courses, were due to be scrapped under the previous government, but days before the first funding changes were due, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson said there would be a pause and review. The 455 schools and colleges in England have joined the Protect Student Choice campaign, a coalition of 25 education organisations and unions. The review comes against a backdrop of issues that have plagued the rollout of T-levels, introduced 3 years ago. Ms Phillipson confirmed T-levels will continue, despite high dropout rates and issues with exam boards. Schools Week highlights the names of the 12-strong panel appointed by government to review the curriculum and assessment. It follows the appointment in July of Professor Becky Francis, the Chief Executive of the Education Endowment Foundation, to lead the review. The panel includes Academy Trust Chief Executives Cassie Buchanan and Dr Vanessa Ogden, SEND consultant Gary Orban, and exams expert Professor Joanne Baird. It also includes Reach Foundation Curriculum Director John Hutchinson and Funmilola Stewart, who leads on equality, diversity and inclusion across the Dixon's Trust. Professor Francis said, "We have ensured that primary, secondary and post-16 sectors are represented," and added that alongside its call for evidence due to launch in September, the review would engage and consult with crucial stakeholder groups and work closely with education staff on the ground. Full details of the panel can be found in the article on the Schools Week website. Hundreds of students are set to miss out on Freshers Week because their accommodation will not be ready. This is according to BBC Bristol, which says Bristol University brought forward Freshers Week so students living in the new Bedminster Metalworks block will struggle to attend events as the residence will not open until the 14th of September. The university says the 819 students affected will be compensated and has offered £250 and promised extra events. But student union officers say the news leaves a sour taste. Legally binding contracts for the new accommodation mean that moving in date cannot be changed. The university brought the Freshers' Week date forward after a review of its academic year. In Wales, record numbers of pupils are being educated out of mainstream schools according to new figures. The figure of 2,279 is more than twice what it was in 2009 to 10 and 28% higher than before the pandemic. The Welsh Government said since the pandemic there had been an increasing demand for provision other than at school, including for physical health and mental health, as well as issues such as anxiety. The figures released do not include those educated outside of school due to parent choice. This has also been rising. Full details of this story can be found on BBC Wales. Finally, The Guardian reports that cleaners at a prestigious UK girls' school have won a dispute over pay and conditions. A strike that was due to take place next week has also been called off. The group of cleaners belonging to the United Voices of the World, a grassroots trade union for low-paid migrant workers, voted to strike after the school's contractor wanted to reduce their working time from 43 to 38 weeks a year, but offered only a £1.55 hourly pay rise in return. After the vote and appeals from teachers and former students, the contractor offered more pay, annual increases, and to meet the London living wage from next year. Whilst the James Allen's Girls' School, known as JAGS, declined to comment, it is understood that former pupils distributed leaflets about the strike and called on the school's leaders to set a good example to its pupils. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
How are you, Graham?
I'm very well. What have you been up to today, Belen?
Luckily, in the afternoon, I had some time off, and I just teach virtually. But it was kind of hectic.
Most of the teaching you do at the moment is virtual, or is it a combination?
No. I am in the trenches, in the classroom with seventh formers, 12-year-old students, and I love that. I think that the presential cannot be replaced with the virtual. So I really love bonding face to face with students.
Yeah. Is that age group, 12-year-olds, your favorite age to teach?
Definitely. I think I would feel very comfortable teaching teenagers, like high school. But I think 12-year-olds are I think I know how to optimize the time that I am with them and get the best from them. I think I have honed that skill throughout the years.
Yeah, I think they're probably my favorite age as well. As
Mm-hmm.
when they get a bit older, then they get a little bit disinterested in learning or a bit too cool for the teacher. Too cool for school.
Yeah,
And
yeah. But yeah, at 12 they are like still curious, very curious about
yeah,
things, so you can really exploit that side.
yeah, and they still generally have a level of respect for the role model of the teacher as well.
They
Whereas when
do,
they get older, that goes away until they become adults. So hopefully,
definitely. Yeah, yeah,
and then
they
the,
do.
the younger kids as well, they can be quite a handful.
Oh, but I think that physically is exhausting. Like I did it when I was in my 20s, when I had the energy for that. I
Yeah,
loved it. But I don't know if nowadays I have that kind of energy. You know, it's very physical. You have to do lots of singing and mimicking, and I love that. I think I
exactly.
still do that, but it's at a different level.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a lot of fun, but as you say, exhausting. I think you
Yeah,
you end the days teaching primary students, you end being completely drained of energy.
exactly, completely drained.
But Belen, I'm getting ahead of myself here because I wanted to ask you about how you became a teacher and what it was that interested you in getting involved in education.
Um, I think I had a very pleasant experience learning a second language at my school. It's Santa Teresa del Niño Jesús. It's a very, very nice school in Buenos Aires province. And I had a very, very enriching experience. And I think that was very, very important for me. Apart from the fact that I loved knowing a lot about different cultures. I think that the teachers there were very passionate, and they transmitted that. So I think that really guided me to become a teacher. Uh,
So was your experience at school then not anything to do with parents or grandparents or any other family members?
well, you know that my grandmother wanted to be a teacher, but I think she
Yeah.
was not allowed. Like her father didn't allow her to become a teacher. He was very strict, like, no, you're going
Oh,
to do
really?
something else. Yeah, and that was like a pending thing for her, like she like a kind of shattered dream, that she
Oh.
could never. Uh,
So did
I
she
don't know.
encourage you to go into teaching?
I don't know if she encouraged me. I think she shared her dream. She was very, very pedagogical in her ways, and I think that she sort of set an example. So it was like a very subtle kind of influence,
Wonderful.
but I really enjoy that.
And was it always English teaching that you wanted to do, or was it were you thinking of other subjects at any time, or was it because you had a flair for languages and for English?
In fact, I remember when I graduated, I had enrolled in two careers. Like one was human resources that had
Wow.
to do with dealing with people, and the other one was the teacher training college at the Joaquin B. Gonzalez. And I thought it would be a good idea to start and I liked English very much, to start with the teacher training college, and then I couldn't get out, but in a nice way. Like I wanted to pursue that. I wanted to study more and get better at that. And then I studied to become a foreign translator. So it was. I sort of deepened my knowledge as regards languages. So
Right.
I became passionate about that.
And you decided that teaching was more for you rather than translation then, is that right?
Oh, it's a lot more fun for sure.
Yeah. Being with people rather than at your own at a computer is much more
Yeah,
fun, isn't it?
and the energy in the classroom is like really revitalizing. You feel that energy from the kids, and I have a lot of fun. That I believe I wouldn't have that much fun as a sworn translator for sure.
Of course,
because it was like very, very like well, documents, and paperwork. So definitely not much fun.
So tell me about the first time that you stepped in front of a group of students to teach. How was that experience?
I think it was the second form, because here we start as helpers.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I was in front of a group was a second form. That is like 7, 8
what
years
age group?
old.
7,
Yeah, 7, 8 years old.
Right, 7 to 8. Yeah.
And I felt empowered somehow, because they really looked up at me, and there was a lot of responsibility. And I also felt a lot of freedom, because I could do like crazy stuff, like fun stuff in front of them, very physical. And they would follow me. And I loved teaching songs and playing and teaching. And when they are so young, they are like sponges, and they learn so much. So I think
very rewarding, isn't it?
Definitely. So you see a really big change in those years.
And so did you teach that age group for a long time, or did you vary the age groups?
I was like second form, then first form. I think I've been like throughout primary, like all ages. And then once I got to 12-year-old students, I felt that was my niche. Like that's where I felt I had to stay, and I had like a really good rapport with the kids, and I felt very comfortable dealing with that age. But I think I've been like in kinder too, and throughout primary, also secondary, but I feel very comfortable in seventh form.
And so you've taught, is that a public school in Buenos Aires then? Or?
A private school.
Private school in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
And have you always taught in schools, or have you taught in other educational organizations as well?
Well, there were like 5 years that I was teaching in companies, adults. So there was kind of different experience. I really enjoyed that as well. Especially like when adults who wanted to learn English, and they, I don't know, didn't study English when they were young, so they saw this as a real challenge. So I enjoyed a lot helping them, especially like beginners or levels. I think I enjoy that process a lot, to be with them.
And what kind of companies did you work with?
One was a law firm. Another one had to do with advertisements, like commercials. Yeah, mainly law firms and companies that had to do with media and commercials, accountants as well. Those were the organizations.
And was it always teaching groups of students in the companies, or one-to-ones as well?
Well, it depended on the rank. Like managers would have their lessons like alone, and then like those who were like more employee staff or less ranked, they had it in groups.
Right.
There were some differences, because managers don't want to make mistakes in front of other people.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? That's probably why they don't like to be seen as being vulnerable in front of their employees, I guess.
Yeah, and learning is about mistakes, so we should embrace them.
Yeah. I remember one of the worst classes I ever taught, worse from the point of view of just the atmosphere of it, was I went to it was a gambling company. So it was a company that made slot machines, these machines that they put in pubs and stuff. He was a sales director, and he was a chain smoker. and it was
Oh.
early in the morning, around 7 or 8 a.m. And I used to go in, and he used to basically sit down, close the door, put down 4 packets of cigarettes. So like 2 packets of Ducados, which are like really strong Spanish cigarettes, and a packet of menthol cigarettes. And he then used to just start smoking. And he like smoke about, I don't know, 2 Ducados and then a menthol cigarette, do another 2 Ducados. And the ashtray in front of me just became kind of full of cigarettes. And I don't smoke.
I was going to ask you that, if you were a
No,
smoker or
I
not.
hate smoking. I've never been a smoker for various reasons. And the smog, the smoke in the room we were
It's like,
in
who's
just
there?
filled up. So by the end of the hour, or I think it was an hour, I was like, my eyes were streaming, and he was fine, and he didn't even, this was many years ago, so he didn't take into consideration that I might not like it. And I used to walk out of there, and like I was coughing and felt awful. My clothes smelt of
Smelling,
tobacco and nicotine, and it was horrible. It was really, but I needed the work. I needed
yeah.
to teach, and that was what I was offered. One of the classes I was offered. So that was probably my worst experience in a company.
Did he learn? Was he a good student?
Not particularly. But I think he was a beginner, and he learned something, but he didn't do his homework, and quite often he wouldn't turn up. So I would be there waiting for him, and sometimes he would be late, and then at other times his secretary would get a call and say, "Oh, can you tell the teacher I'm not going to be in today?" It was fine because I still got paid for that, because
okay.
I'd traveled there to his company to do the class. So. But it's always a bit frustrating when you prepare a class and then you can't teach it.
Yeah, and they cancel like the very same day, and you are there.
So yeah, I had experience teaching company classes as well, but I think definitely my experience is the same as you when it comes to teaching kind of 12-year-olds are like the sweet spot. It's like they're really great to teach, aren't they?
And I believe I'm going to stay there for a while. Like that's the age group that I'm
You're teaching
like
at the
best.
moment. And so
yes.
Belen, I know you're involved in lots of different projects that sound really interesting. Would you like to pick one and talk about it?
Yeah. I'm into technology, as you know, and projects that involve technology are very appealing. There is one project that I'm very proud of at Bayard School. That's where I teach now, which is a private school in the city of Buenos Aires, and it has to do with going beyond the classroom walls. I know that you're very familiar with this and virtual connections. And it's a very nice project that started in 2021 after the pandemic. We started working really hard on its implementation. The head at our school, Vivian Miglino, met Lotta Larsson, a PhD professor from Kansas University, and shared with her this project that we carried out at our school that is called C2C, Communication to Coexist. That project started in 2018, and it entailed contacting teachers or experts from different parts of the world so that our students they would interview these teachers or experts or authors. We even interviewed authors from different parts of the world. And well, when Lotta and Viv started talking about carrying out virtual connections, Lotta Larsson talked about having her pre-service teachers from Kansas University delivering virtual lessons to our students. And in exchange, our students will have this possibility of interacting with remote teachers. And that was quite a unique experience, because they would be able to use their second language in a meaningful context. What we did was, as a teacher, I shared my plan with the teachers from Kansas University, because we were interested that they would cover some learning objectives from an international exam. So the idea was that they would enhance the speaking and writing skills of our students in virtual encounters that would last more or less 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And this would last, this project was supposed to last 2 weeks. So we planned everything in advance. We had several meetings with the teachers and the coordinators. And then we implemented this. Each remote teacher would connect virtually with 2 or 3 students from our school, and they would cover those learning objectives in these interactions. And it was a very, very interesting experience for our students, who would have like remote teachers. It was the first time for them. They would they had to talk in English, so like there was no way they could resort to Spanish, and it was very meaningful for them to be involved in this exchange. And at the other end, the teachers from Kansas, the pre-service teachers from Kansas University, would develop remote teaching skills and try out different strategies with our students. So it was a sort of win-win scenario for both of us at both ends.
So there wasn't any exchange then? You didn't have any involvement in teaching those teachers' students?
No, not really. Just we shared the plan, how we suggested how what we wanted them to cover in these exchanges. We had meetings, lots of meetings, because we had to work in tandem. And then there was a lot of engagement when the live connection took place. So, for example, we had to monitor that the students were having, that the connections ran smoothly. We were connected at the other end if, I don't know, one of our students was absent or one of the teachers had a problem connecting. So we had to be permanently connected. And I think that the live encounter, there was a lot of adrenaline. And each student, as we have this bring your own device policy, they were connected from their devices, wearing headphones in the classroom. But you could tell that they were really, really engaged in this experience. And this is like the 3rd year that we are doing this.
Wow.
So
with the same very, very teachers, or do the teachers change?
The teachers change, and well, and our groups, of course, change as well. So yeah, it's every time a new group and a new experience. But of course, this of sustaining projects over time gives you the possibility of perfecting them and working on them, and maybe things that didn't work the first year, and the experience accrued, we can get better and better. And it
so
also
how has the project developed over time then? What things did you used to do that you don't do, etc.?
I think that organization is key. We got really, really good at getting organized. This of the communication, for example, when the live connection took place at the beginning, we sent emails.
Right.
and it was super slow. And after the second live connection, we were like, this is not working. We have to send like WhatsApp or messages, so it has to be faster somehow.
Yeah.
Also the feedback, our students provided feedback about the experience, and also the teachers, the pre-service teachers from the university said like, this worked for me. Maybe we can work on this better. But I think organization is key, and we got really good at I don't know, working out the dates and the time difference, and I think that the implementation stage we got a lot better.
Right.
And of course, it depends what we want to enhance. If it's writing skills, speaking skills, we give more importance in the planning to that.
And what in general do you focus on? I imagine it would be speaking, or is that not the case?
Yeah, speaking.
Yeah.
And in fact, in 7th form, we prepare our students for the TED Talks.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's really, really cool. I don't know of many schools that do it in English. I know that there are several schools that do it in Spanish, and especially in secondary school. But what is primary school?
Do you hold an event then? A TEDx event?
Yeah, yes,
Wow.
we have one at the end of the year where we invite the community, and parents come, and the kids, and it's amazing to see them. Like they are 12.
12-year-olds doing TEDx talks. That's amazing.
Yeah, standing up in front of an audience. It's a lot of pressure.
But it must be so good for their confidence and their speaking. And they're doing this in English, of course.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Definitely.
How long does it take for them to get ready to be able to do a TEDx talk? And how long does the talk last?
We start more or less April.
Mm-hmm.
And we follow the TED booklet, let's say. So we do like first introduction, then we work on the body, where they have to do a lot of research work and read articles and look for reliable sources. I think that part is very interesting. And now, for example, we are in they are developing the body of the TED Talk, so they are in the research stage, and by the end of September, October, they should be ready. So November is the big date.
And is it a voluntary thing that the students do, or do you make all of them do it?
I have this rule. I would never force anybody to do anything. I try to be persuasive. I try to make them feel comfortable, and I want them to feel confident, but I would never force anybody to do anything. We do, what is compulsory is that they present it in front of their classmates, but being part of the main event is voluntary. So those, but in general, I am very persuasive, and they feel comfortable, and they love sharing. I'm very happy because they do want to share what the topics that they have developed.
And do they choose what they want to talk about?
Yes, and I think that's the appealing part of all this, that they choose like from AI, video games, friendship, parents. They decide what to talk about, and I think that's the interesting thing, especially because you get to have maybe kids that in general in the classroom maybe they don't participate that much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that giving them freedom to choose and to talk about something that they're passionate about, that sort of makes them want to share. Yes. Yeah, that's very important.
And how long? I mean, you've talked about
how long do they talk?
But how they talk for, is it what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or?
It goes like, the average is like from 5 to 8 minutes.
That's quite a long time for a 12-year-old to
It
talk
is.
about a subject, actually.
But
Impressive.
they really manage to
Wow.
create a solid TED talk with an introduction that is enticing, and they really hook the audience. So I'm very proud of the work that they do, and it's all their
And
merit.
I'm guessing they write it first. Is that correct?
They do. We have they have a script
Mm-hmm.
and the slides. So basically, the idea is that they don't use a lot of words in the slides. Like, they have a script that they need to study,
Yeah.
and in the slides they are only allowed to have like very good images and
Yeah.
keywords.
Right.
So that means I always tell them this, like, the importance of being the speaker.
Yeah.
So we don't want the audience to read the slides. We want them to deliver and to share that information
Yeah.
and all their investigation. So
It sounds like you've trained them well, a lot better than a lot of adults who do PowerPoint slides.
well, I think it doesn't make any sense to make the audience read if the speaker is going to read what is on the slides. It's like
Although I've always
yeah.
thought that, but
Uh-huh.
then at the last IATEFL conference, and we'll probably end up talking about IATEFL at some
Okay.
point in the UK, we had a visually impaired teacher join us
Uh-huh.
and present, and she attended the conferences with one of my colleagues. She's from Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and she was talking about, actually, you can't, if you're presenting, you can't assume that everyone in the audience can see your slides or hear
Uh-huh.
you because of special educational needs, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so the best thing to do is actually make sure that you're actually showing things and
Mm-hmm.
speaking them at the same time. So I always thought, yeah, don't put words on a slide.
Mm-hmm.
If you put words on a slide, you should ask them to read it, not speak it. But she convinced me over dinner one evening when when we went out as a group. She was like saying, all of you presenters need to learn a bit more about being more inclusive to people with visual impairments or hearing impairments. And I was like, oh, I think you've got a point there.
Yeah,
So
she does.
that isn't the case, obviously, with your 12-year-olds and TED talks,
Uh-huh.
but it's kind of like, it's interesting. It's made me rethink my accepted way of presenting, actually.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. I think I haven't considered that, but yeah, it's true. It's true. We should be as inclusive as possible, right?
Yeah, but anyway, it sounds like you've got a really good thing going there with the students. What have been the most unusual subjects that the students have talked about?
Oh, unusual subjects. Well,
Putting you on the spot now.
they talked about AI, which I think was very, very cool. And they, I don't know, showed a video of Messi talking in English, which was a fake video. So that
Okay.
was very, very interesting. Like, to take AI with a pinch of salt as well. So I like that. They talked about feminism. That was
Wow.
very interesting as well for the 12-year-old. I remember one of them started with a joke that was like this joke that goes, where do women belong in the kitchen? And then that's not funny, so that's how she got the attention of the crowd. And then she started talking about feminism and gender equality. So I think for a 12-year-old it's very challenging. Of course, there's a lot of guidance behind, not just me, because I also work with a team to monitor the talks. But
it sounds like this kind of thing would make a great TV series, great TV show. To have 12-year-olds talk about the kinds of subjects they're talking about in your school, I'm sure there'd be an audience for that. So if there's anybody out there listening who is a TV producer, you know who to get in touch with.
There was one who talked about minimalism. Wow. And it was fantastic because I remember the name of his talk was Less is More.
Right. I imagine the slides were just blank colors with one word.
Yeah, one word. And it was funny because by chance, or not, I don't know, those coincidences, his mother had given him a shirt, Less is More, when he was 8.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the way he ended his TED Talk was like, he made an experiment and showed the before and after of his bedroom. Throwing away, the things that he didn't use. It was not necessary to have so many stuff in the bedroom. So he showed a before and after. And then he ended up like opening like his jacket and showing this shirt that was tight now that said Less is More. So it was a wonderful ending for that talk.
Fantastic. Wow, it sounds like a great thing to do. So if a teacher listening to us now speak about this wanted to get involved with this and do something similar in their classes, how would they start?
I think that the booklet itself has a step-by-step implementation, which I follow. By now, I have selected like some activities from the TED booklet that I think are very useful, especially because at the beginning they feel at a loss. They really don't know what to talk about. Like, what can I talk about?
So you need to kind of do sort of brainstorming sessions or to stimulate their ideas, yeah?
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with getting to know themselves. There is a lot of introspection in that sense. About what they would feel fascinated talking about. And I tell them, don't do this talk because you want the topic that you choose, you want your teacher to like it. Don't do it. Don't do it for your teacher, do it for yourselves. Because if you have to sustain a topic of interest and to develop it, and you're not interested and you do it for someone else, it's very hard. It's kind of boring to sustain that talk over time. So choose something that you're passionate about, and you will get there.
Yeah.
And everybody does. I find that fascinating because
it strikes me that
find the topic.
Yeah, it strikes me that doing something like this, they're learning so much more than just language and practicing language. There's the confidence of speaking in public, the skills about learning how to present information, but also this idea of don't do something because you think someone else wants you to do it, but do it because it's something you're passionate or interested in. So there's so much going on there that I think above and beyond the language, which makes it a really great thing to do with students, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that at that age, getting to know about yourself and what you want, I think it's I don't know do you remember when you were in 7th? I remember when I was 12 like very vividly. It was like a turning point. I remember many things.
I can't remember, but that's probably because it was a lot longer a time ago than it was for you. I do remember some key moments at school, but they tend to be when I was a little bit older. I remember my first Spanish, well, yeah, my first Spanish teacher
Uh-huh.
who was just amazing. She was like, she was, she must have been straight out of university. She must have been young. And she was flamboyant and really funny, and also did all sorts of wonderful things in class that no teachers had ever done before. And she brought in comics to class and
Cool.
films and all sorts of things. And I think the reason why I'm talking to you today in Mexico, I can trace back to her teaching me, which is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think some teachers just brand us for life, but in such a nice way.
Yeah,
The impact teachers have in their students' lives, it's really, really strong at times and very inspiring.
definitely.
So yeah. Imagine you remember your teacher from secondary school, right? Spanish teacher
Yeah,
from secondary school.
exactly. It's why I became fascinated with Spanish and the idea of wanting to learn the language well. I didn't learn the language well at school, but that was partly because I found it very difficult. We didn't have enough time. That's part of the problem. A lot of the time, there's not enough practice and not enough hours to actually learn a language well at a school like that, and not enough focus on speaking. But I left there with the desire of I want to go and live in a Spanish-speaking country, well, Spain in particular, and also I want to learn this language as at least as well as I can.
How long have you been in Mexico?
6 years.
6 years. Okay. And
6 years in Mexico, 5 years in Uruguay, 18 years in Spain. So a lot of time in Spanish-speaking countries, thanks to this teacher.
Yeah, she had a profound impact.
Yeah, definitely. I should look her up.
Do you remember her name?
Yeah, Mrs. Harwood.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Get set for the year ahead with the Bloomsbury Education Back to School sale. Save 30% on all Bloomsbury education books until 30th September. From the very best in research-led practice to trusted advice on inclusivity, behaviour and curriculum design, we've got something for everyone. Visit bloomsbury.com/B2S sale to shop now and save 30%. Bloomsbury Education, books for every step of your teaching journey.
How can you show your students the opportunities that await them? How can you fuel their aspirations and motivate them to achieve? Futurum Careers provides a wealth of stimulating resources aimed at encouraging 14 to 19-year-olds to pursue careers in STEM and SHAPE. We help you to show your students what they can aim for and how. From articles to activity sheets, animations to podcasts, all our resources align with Gatsby benchmarks and are free for you and your students to download. Visit futurumcareers.com and subscribe today. Futurum Careers, helping teachers to inspire the next generation.
Anyway, we got off track. It sounds like you're doing some great projects. The project that you're doing with the teachers and the university teachers in the States isn't related to the TED Ed.
No.
Two separate things.
Those are two separate projects.
And that project you're doing with the university teachers, is that a research project for them, the university as well?
Yeah.
They
have published papers based on this. And in fact,
what is the research? What is the focus of the research?
Well, in fact, it has to do with remote teaching and teaching soft skills and it is focused on that, and the way they see teaching in the future, like not presential, but it has more to do with this teaching.
So they're looking
teachers.
at how to teach effectively remotely, is it? Something
That's
like
right.
that?
And maybe teachers do not develop or didn't develop these skills in the past, and now it's a must. We need to know how to teach remotely, how
Yeah.
to improve our strategies. I remember one tip that you gave during the pandemic. I will never forget.
Oh, really?
It was in the LTSIG, and you said, like, when you are interacting, you have to look at the camera, and exactly there. And I was like, makes a lot of sense, and these small things that have to do with connection and looking at the other person's eyes, I thought it was fantastic. It was simple and very, very effective.
Thanks. It is those little things that come from reflecting on how you're teaching and observing other teachers teach. I think it's so important. And that's the other thing I find is really interesting, is when you can observe yourself, either, through video recording, for example, or screen recording. Because if you do that, I wouldn't suggest you do it all the time, because watching yourself is kind of difficult. Watching yourself teach is even more difficult. But you learn so much through just being able to observe yourself teach as someone else, a student or another teacher, would do. That, for me, the first time that happened to me, and I was forced to sit and watch myself teach, and it wasn't a very good class, was the most, there was a before and after to my teaching, definitely, when I did that. So it's something I recommend. I haven't done it much since then, but it was definitely a transformational moment for me. I don't know if you've ever done it, Berlin.
I think I did it, but recording, like just my voice, but not like with a video. I think it would be interesting to do to record with a video. I believe a lot in peer observation.
Yeah.
I always invite teachers, or I go and see other teachers. I think that is key in teaching, because if not, everybody closes the door and you don't know what happens there. And I think we should have this ongoing observation of our colleagues' lessons. And I think it's also very enriching, because I always learn new things when I have time and I can go and sit in another teacher's lesson. There are very, very good teachers around that we can always learn from. And teaching is about this lifelong learning as well. So
yeah, it's about keeping your interest by doing different things, about learning to be better. There's always something you can be better at when, as a teacher, which is what makes it fascinating.
Yeah, and being curious and learning and I'm a lot into integrating technology, but there's also this pedagogy of play, and playing with students. And
speaking of which, I got to hear more about something you mentioned while we were planning on what we were going to talk about, which is this choose your own adventure type activities.
Yes,
I'm very
another
much
project.
Interested in the idea of play and games in teaching. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh, this was we used the platform Twine, which is an open source platform, and the idea was to use the poem by Robert Frost, "The Road Not Taken," as a starting point. Right, we read the poem. As they are in seventh form. Seventh form is the last year of primary school. Right. And then some of them stay in the same school, some go to other schools. So it is like a critical moment in their lives. So I thought that this poem was very meaningful for them. It's like, or you decide to continue at your school, or you go to another school and you meet new people. So I thought that was a good starting point. And the idea was that using the Twine platform, many of them knew about the Choose Your Own Adventure stories somehow, or they had their parents had a book, or they had read something in that format. And the idea was that using this platform, they had to create their own stories, and there were some guidelines. Of course, they had to use the format of Choose Your Own Adventures, that it addresses the
So
reader
Twine,
directly.
just to
Twine.
clarify, Twine, I've never used, but I've heard it before and I've seen people present it. It's a format that produces something like a branching story, a choose your own adventure story, in text form. Is that right?
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't know if you've watched this episode Bandersnatch from
Oh, yes.
Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Well, the director of that episode used Twine to develop the story.
I've seen the overview, the map of that. You can actually go and see the whole branching story.
Imagine
So that's
the episode of Bandersnatch stems. You know, there are like several branches, and it's crazy.
It was massive. That's great.
And in this case, well, they were working in teams. Another, I wanted them to use riddles so that the reader had a more active role. So the reader had to choose or find out the correct answer and choose from those suggested solutions the correct one. And they came up with really, really original stories.
Wow.
And what I also liked was that I learned a lot about how to use Twine, making my students use Twine. Because first I tried it myself, and I was like, okay, all right, I get it. I presented that in second form. I went to second form, and I had like the students interacting with the story. I remember the name of the story I created was The Lost Scarf. So the idea was that the second form teacher had lost her scarf, and the students there were going to help her find it. So together, like I read the story, or I had some students reading the story, and we voted, okay, who wants to go to the playground to find the scarf? Who wants to go to the atelier? Who wants to go to the, I don't know, the head's office? So they raised their hands, and so we were they were kind of detectives trying to find the story. So once I tried that out, I said, okay, I want my students to do the same, because the idea was that they were going to present these stories later to lower forms.
Right.
And they came up with really original stories. Like there was a zombie attack at Bayard School, so they had to escape, and the zombies and teachers were becoming zombies, and they had scratches, because and there was so much fun. Or there was one of Little Red Riding Hood, but like a twisted version. So that was very funny as well, because they are like this pre-adolescent, so they like a lot irony and dark humor. So they came up with really original stories using Twine.
Sounds like you've got some very creative students that you're teaching, which must make it fun as well.
Yeah, and they are fun, and I like that when they can create, they can be the creators of their own stories and use humor, and they feel very much identified with that. And they
do you get them to write directly in Twine, the program, the stories, or do they do some preparation work beforehand?
I remember I had they had a script before, and then they wrote like copy pasted that in Twine. But I wanted them first to do a sort of story have like a backbone story, so that I could correct grammar or spelling or
Right.
and then they copy
And
pasted that.
they write it on in computers then,
Yes, yes.
in kind of
It,
numbered sections, is it? And then
which was in different colors, for example.
right.
It got a little bit complicated when it was like a very
Sounds like it could become complicated, but
yeah.
I guess if you have a template or something, then it makes it easier.
Yeah. I did it in like in a doc, but and they use different colors, but probably a template could work better.
And is this something you do now, or is that something you did?
Well, you know, I was thinking
continued?
about. I was thinking this year of revamping that project, but seeing how to integrate AI in the writing.
So I've actually looked at that.
Let's see.
Because well, it's very easy actually to, if you, for example, go to ChatGPT and you say, write a choose your own adventure or write a branching story about, for example, I did one. It was like write about a man traveling to work who is late, and the reader has to make decisions about what forms of transport he has to take in order to get to work on time. There are you have to be very specific, I think, otherwise it's just you learn through doing it. But there are 10 rounds, 3 choices per round. Put obstacles in his way and give him a 50% chance of success, and award points for the right decisions and give feedback. And it's fun.
It is.
Everything else it comes up with, is like you leave the house, there's a bus strike. What do? Do you go and ask a neighbor for a lift? Do you hail a taxi? Do you, and then the more times you play it, the more choices you get. It works really well. It's a great thing for students to do as a reading activity, for example. You give them the prompt.
Yeah.
Or to do it as a class activity to get, you could talk about it with as what is the right decision here, pros and cons, and then you decide together as a group which decision to make. And so you're doing a whole class activity that would work.
Yeah, I was my only fear is whether or when to introduce AI, right? Because I'm really interested in their creativity and developing the story and making mistakes and correcting and working on that, and maybe in the last part to integrate AI and see how they can enhance or improve the story.
Or you could do it at the beginning, just to show them what the kind of story that you want them to create is like. But obviously the danger with that is that you don't want them to go to ChatGPT and get ChatGPT to create the story for
exactly
instead of them. That's
definitely
always the problem now, isn't it?
Yeah. And talking about AI, I think I'm always like between that, like, because I want my students to create. I don't know. The other day they were trying this one Suno to create songs.
Yes.
I don't know if you have tried it. And
there's another one similar to it. I haven't tried Suno, but I've tried UDIO.
Oh.
And I don't know. We talked about Suno with my last guest.
Oh, really?
It's coming up all the time now, but I don't know if it's the same as UDIO, but UDIO allows your students, for example, you can get the students to write the words, and then the program will create the song based on their choices about the type of music and stuff. that's you can get the program also to create the lyrics as well. But I think the interesting thing is if you get the students to write their own lyrics and make them rhyme, for example,
Yeah.
and then have the AI create the music, which wouldn't be possible in class.
Yeah. Yeah, but well, that is one of the things with AI, like when to integrate it, how to integrate it,
Yeah.
And whether it's going to sort of steal students from their creativity, from making mistakes.
Yeah. Have you seen students who try to use AI to cheat or to avoid doing the work yet?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I can tell
Give-
right away in the
Give
writings.
me an give me an example. Is it setting writing tasks for homework and they come up with AI generated answers? Is that it? Or
Yeah, well, in fact, I can tell, like, the moment they use the word dwell, I know that it's impossible for them to come up with that word. So
of course.
it's very easy
With
to tell when it's
yeah,
not.
I mean with language learners it's obvious that
Yeah.
there are big tells, aren't there, for these tools like dwell
Mhm.
and language that, we wouldn't use in normal day life.
And if you it follows a certain pattern, like whatever it is you ask, I don't know, ChatGPT, it's always like the same words or phrases, or the
Yes.
wording is the same. It's
Yeah. I
so
played
you.
around for quite a while. I decided to play around with ChatGPT to create poetry. I love the idea of you can create in an instant a very simple poem for class, for example, for students, based on whatever subject you want, and it'll
Mm-hmm.
do it. And then I realized, like you saw dwell, even if you ask ChatGPT to create in the style of a particular poet, um, it it keeps repeating the same phrases. And one of the phrases it kept putting into the poems that I was asking it to generate was "endless night."
Uh-huh.
That's its poetic standby. You try it; it'll keep coming up with endless. It'll throw in "endless night" everywhere, which was really interesting. So there are other phrases. I think
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I'm sure you've been in a teacher development session where someone is sort of the typical exercise that used to be the case is like they give you some example sentences written by AI and some written by humans, and you have to decide between them. When I first saw that, it was difficult.
Uh-huh.
Now
You
I
can
get
tell.
them 100% because the more you use AI, the more you just know which ones have been written by machines.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? I don't know
Yeah, it
how
is.
long that will be the case for, but definitely.
Well, the other day we were talking about uh, well, AI and this idea, the saying that goes like AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace other humans.
Yeah.
I don't think that is going to happen in our profession. I think teachers are very, very difficult to replace for so many things. But I don't know about you, but do you see that happening? What's your stand on that?
I I see it disrupting the world of work, the world of education, and
Mm-hmm.
it needs to. We can't ignore it. We can't ban it. We need to embrace it. We need to people in the real world of work. Not that the real world of education isn't real, but in the world of work, I know of lots of instances where people are now using AI. And it's what you said. If you don't use AI, then you will be replaced by someone who does in
Mm-hmm.
your job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you need to be at least aware of it, the possibilities and how it's used. And you're doing a disservice, I think, for the students if you don't
Mm-hmm.
if they I think it will become more and more you'd be doing a disservice if you don't sort of make them aware of it, at least. I'm not saying use it all the time, but make them aware of how it can be used and how it can help them.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as replacing us as teachers and things, I think we've got a long way to go. And I think if we ever get to the point where teachers are being replaced by AI, then there'll be a lot more in society that we have to worry about. But also, if that's the case, well, what do the humans do?
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have work, then we don't have money to buy the things that people want to make or the services that people or these machines do. So who's gonna it will just eat itself. I don't know, but I think it's unlikely that we'll reach general artificial intelligence. Or if there does come a point where we do reach it, then it will be we'll have a lot more existential problems as a species to worry about than whether we're going to lose our jobs.
Yeah, definitely.
But I know, for example, there are lots of people trying to use AI to write long, novels and stuff. And there are people who are now flooding Amazon, for example, with self-published AI non-fiction and fiction books, novels. And I think that will continue to happen, but I'm not sure people would choose to read an AI-generated book over a book that is relating someone's human experience. I think I would hope they wouldn't.
I think that's irreplaceable. It's very difficult to replace, and human modeling, human experience, empathy, and when you talk about this,
the reason for communication that we have is to relate to other people and to talk about our experiences, etc. So why would we want a machine to do that for us?
Well, in IATEFL, they talked about the uncanny valley effect and how awkward it was for machines, that like the more human-like that they became, they created this sense of kind of eeriness and discomfort.
That's right.
So
it's a bit like visually. There's this what is it called? The uncanny valley. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, the uncanny valley. Sorry, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the uncanny valley effect.
Exactly. Oh yeah, sorry, that's what you were saying.
Yes.
I thought you were saying something about there's another thing about AI when it comes to AI that it's about cannibalism.
Oh.
I thought you were talking about that. So in other words, the more that AIs are trained on other AIs, the more the weird effects that they produce. I don't know what it's called. I thought it was something related to cannibalism because the AI is kind of eating up itself, basically feeding on itself. I thought it was that you were talking about.
No. I'm going to try to find out that of cannibalism and AI. That's interesting. But what I do like sometimes, what I'm surprised, I don't know if you have also sensed this, that many teachers are not using AI or they have not tried it, even though by now many have.
Yeah, it's the same with technology in general. I'm sure you've come across this. There are some teachers who are kind of like they decided that they didn't want anything to do with technology in the classroom, or they wouldn't introduce it, or they were technophobes. And I think there are still some teachers who are like that, but they're a dying breed, I think, because our day-to-day lives have just been infiltrated with so much technology.
Yeah.
If you want to book a flight, for example, it's very difficult now, or you'll have to pay a lot more money if you walk into a travel agency and sit down and asked to book a flight, and all you're doing is you're having someone else use the internet for you to
Yeah.
book it for you.
Yeah.
Things like that. Mobile phone, if you don't have a mobile phone or don't use social media, then there is a large section of people that you're excluded from these days.
Yeah, definitely. I like
And I
the
think
idea of
that'll be the
AI.
case with AI, I'm sure.
I like the idea of AI augmenting like teachers' capabilities. I like that concept.
Yeah.
And optimizing our performance. That's why we can't do away with it, right? We can't pretend it doesn't exist. And as long
Yeah.
as it's something that gives you more potential as a teacher, it should be welcomed.
So, Belen, apart from AI, what other parts of or technological tools and stuff do you end up using with students?
Well, there was a time where I used to Flipgrid for
Oh,
feedback.
yes.
I think that's an engaging way for students to
Which was
record themselves.
it
I
doesn't
think
exist
Twine,
anymore, is that right? Or it does?
I think it does.
It does, yeah. I thought, or
Has
it's
it?
probably changed from what it was.
Mhm.
And that's basically allows you to provide little videos and give
Feedback.
replies on video as
For
well,
example,
feedbacks and stuff.
For the project with the universities, we used Flipgrid for students' feedback. I think Twine is really good at the level of creation.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's interesting more than the digitalized thing of, I don't know, using collaborative documents or creating slides. And then, I don't know, creating videos in the classroom is always a good option. Using VoiceThread, that's also a nice tool. I can't think of any other
So
right
many.
now. Yeah, is it that trying? I recommend the ones that I actually integrate in the classroom. If not, it's like, and I want to sense the timing of the kids and if they like it and if it's useful and if it's really creating something new, and not just at the digital level of using paper or a Word document.
Right.
Uh,
And how did you become involved in the Learning Technologies special interest group at IATEFL? What was it that attracted you to join IATEFL and to join in there?
I think, I don't know if this is like when I was a kid, I was into video games. So I think that having that background of Double Dragon, for example, or Golden Axe, but I really, really enjoyed video games, and that's a world that has always fascinated me. And I think
do you still play video games?
Yeah, with my kids. Now I try to connect with them. We play Brawl Stars. I don't know if you have if you know about this one. It's
No,
like a
don't know that one.
multiplayer game.
Oh, yeah.
And it has like a lot of strategy because you need to team up to defeat another team, and you play online, and it's very interesting. I'm curious about what kids are into nowadays and the games they play. But I think that background has a lot to do with me being interested in technologies in general. And I think that kids nowadays are fascinated when teachers bring that into the classroom and they can use it and they integrate it in their lessons. I think it's a tool we need to learn and to use in the classroom. So I guess that's why I became interested, or at least I got closer to the learning technologies. And of course, what was shared there was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. Like this of Twine was because I heard it, like a teacher from Finland who shared this about Twine. I was like, I'm gonna try it. I need to. I use the classroom as a lab where I try things out, and I want to test this with my students and see if it works, and if they have fun and if they like it. That's more or less the story behind.
Great. And what haven't we talked about? We've talked about a lot, but what other things are you involved in that you might want to share?
Well, for instance, I don't know what's in Mexico, the situation as regards the use of cell phones and tablets in the classroom. That was a big issue some weeks ago in Argentina about whether they should be integrated in the classrooms or not.
There's a debate everywhere, I think, isn't it? There's a lot of research that's come out recently that says actually reading digitally isn't good for you. You should read with paper-based books, and also cell phones can distract and they shouldn't be in the classroom, etc. So I think it's not just in Argentina or Mexico. I think it's everywhere. But I don't know how much that cell phones are being used at the moment in the school system in this country. But it's a big issue. You said it's been something that has been in the news recently in Argentina, is it?
Yeah. In fact, as like primary school, they are like highly recommended not to use cell phones nor tablets, even though each school can decide whether how they're going to implement this.
And I'm guessing at your school they're okay with you using them. Is that right? Or
in fact, they are going to be used in 7th form, cell phones and tablets, and for the time being, in 4th, 5th, and 6th form, the students are not going to be allowed to use, at least for a while, to use cell phones or tablets. Which in the case of cell phones is okay, because being in 4th form, 10-year-olds with cell phones, that's like too young. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Why does a 10-year-old need a cell phone?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Is this also to do with parental pressure, do you think, on the school, or is it kind of the teachers or the school leaders that have decided?
I think it has more to do with students being, maybe the cell phone being a big distractor at school. I think that sometimes families are very lenient to what kids want, and maybe just to appease them, they give them the cell phones, and that's a problem because they start at a very young age. I don't know if there's a lot of pressure of parents not wanting cell phones. I think they don't know what to do at times. Like, they provide the cell phones, but then they don't know how to.
It's a lot of, I imagine there's a lot of peer pressure as well, where parents give in because the students are sort of saying, but all my friends have a cell phone.
Well, that happened to me this year. Like, my eldest son is 11.
Right.
And he was the last one to get a cell phone.
Oh, really?
The last one. And
because he didn't want it, or?
No, he wanted the cell phone. But I told him that I thought he was very young. It was not necessary, at least. But then all his classmates had cell phones, and it is hard, that peer pressure. But I think that WhatsApp groups, that like it generates a lot of anxiety in kids that is not necessary, and if you can delay that, or I think it's even healthy. But
Yeah.
well, I caved in like a couple of months ago, but it was hard. It was the last one, but it's hard. It's hard.
You don't regret it.
Mm, mm,
You haven't decided yet.
like when I agreed to give it to him, I was sure, and we talked a lot about the responsibility of having a cell phone, of access, of talking. I think that's essential. But then, of course, many things happen, and you have to keep that communication channel open to see how to cope with different problems when they crop up.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I think keeping an eye on it and just being concerned of the way you're doing is probably the good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Belen, I'm going to wrap things up now. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a great pleasure being able to talk to you about your experience as a teacher and all of the projects that you've been up to that sound fascinating.
All right. Well, thank you for this wonderful exchange. I really look up to you. I think you're a referent in learning technologies, technology in general. So it was a real honor for me.
No, honor to speak to you for me. Thank you very much.
All right.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Get set for the year ahead with the Bloomsbury Education Back to School sale. Save 30% on all Bloomsbury education books until 30th September. From the very best in research-led practice to trusted advice on inclusivity, behaviour and curriculum design, we've got something for everyone. Visit bloomsbury.com/B2S sale to shop now and save 30%. Bloomsbury Education, books for every step of your teaching journey.
How can you show your students the opportunities that await them? How can you fuel their aspirations and motivate them to achieve? Future Careers provides a wealth of stimulating resources aimed at encouraging 14 to 19-year-olds to pursue careers in STEM and SHAPE. We help you to show your students what they can aim for and how. From articles to activity sheets, animations to podcasts, all our resources align with Gatsby benchmarks and are free for you and your students to download. Visit futurumcareers.com and subscribe today. Futurum Careers, helping teachers to inspire the next generation.
So that brings us to the end of today's Twilight Show. Many thanks to today's special guest, Belen Albarracin, and to all of you who joined us live, and to those listening back to the recording, of course. And so that's it from me. There are Teachers Talk radio shows all week on all manner of interesting topics, so please listen in live or back to the recordings. And I hope you will join me again next week at the same time. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.